Australia is facing the first recession in 30 years, we all know that the pandemic has created global disruption. And we're all in a space where there's a lot of uncertainty because the new normal is still unfolding. We don't have the answers, and we don't know exactly what the future would look like. We've seen a fundamental change in the way certain industries operate, and I think that change is going to continue going forward. But we, as finance leaders, have the opportunity and the responsibility to help organizations make the right decisions, to guide our teams in a proactive way, to focus on making the decisions that will allow us to come back stronger and build the organizations that we want to see in the future. And I think, coming from finance myself, I understand that that's probably a little bit easier said than done. And I think one of the challenges we face with this is traditional planning is in many ways still a bit of a binary process. We look at planning in one or two ways. It's either to assume that the world is entirely certain and therefore open to exact predictions about the future, or we look at it as completely unsure and uncertain, and focusing on that prefix of un, which is it's not certain. And I think in that it could lead us to a scenario where we are unable to defend against threats or take advantage of potential opportunities that disruption and uncertainty presents. I think at this point, an example that comes to mind, and this is something that a lot of us are familiar with, is the Kodak story. Kodak's story of failing has its roots in its success. It made it reluctant to change. They didn't fail because they missed the digital opportunity or the digital age in photography. They actually invented the first digital camera, which that to me was quite a surprise. But they missed the opportunity because they missed looking at what the change in the digital market will present to them as a potential new avenue. They didn't want to market the new technology because they had this fear about the impact that it's going to have on their current business, and they were reluctant to move. And I think if they took a different view to this and started looking at probabilities and scenarios, they could have looked at a probability or scenario where if this market does shift and it does become so prevalent that people will move into digital photography and move away from film, what would that mean to us? How do we manage that? How do we leverage that? And how do we become the leaders in that space? And that's just another scenario that they needed to take into account. So that's what forward thinking comes down to. It's the ability to not just look at it in that binary way, but start looking at probabilities, assessing scenarios, and finding ways to move forward, even though we're facing a lot of uncertainty.